Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mackie.
That's good. He's here. He's with us, people. We're broadcasting live from the Sydney studios in Australia. And it's a great idea to jump into the chat room at freedomslips.com and discuss our topics that get you thinking. You can listen for there too. Also, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. All the follows. Check out shinysideout.net. I nearly said it wrong. For our show archives, notes, and links we paste into the chat during the show. Also, it's also easy to listen to Revolution Radio, the station we love. If you live in Kentucky, you can get on an FM 101.3 WZZR, or you can get an app. I use an app. I like our app the best, Mickey. It's shinysideout.net, or just called Shiny Side Out. Just look for that one. But if you might already have one on your phone, you don't want to put another one on, you might have Revolution Radio's own app, TalkStream Live app, TuneIn.com app, or Radio Tuner app. But if you don't like any of those things, and as Hawk says, if you have a phone with too many buttons on it, you can just get a real radio you can listen to. And you can get a Grace tabletop digital radio. And but you could be driving around in your car or a truck with the receiver-enabled radio. That's pretty cool. All of those things are revolutions in radio. This, you can also buy you could buy seeds if you have a donation over $100 to the station. But, and I say but, and that's awesome. That'll prepare you, but you might have already done that. And if you don't want another pack of seeds, you could buy a CD of last year's show that you like the most of, so their 2014 season, or you can get the best of for the whole thing. Hang on, I think we're going to call her straight away. I'll pop them in. Also, if you're in the United States, as this person's just done, you can either call on 347-688-29022, or you can add Freedom Screen to Skype. And also, if you didn't catch it, Solaris had an awesome show. Yet again. And if you missed it, if you're hearing us for the first time, you've never heard Solaris' show, check the archives at freedomslips.com. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
What's up, man?
Oh, my goodness.
It's the Hawk.
It is the Hawk. We're not worthy, Hawk.
How are you?
Oh, give me a break.
How are you? It's been such a long time since we've spoken with you.
Yes, it has. I'm generally not up this late, but I was sick all day with my blood sugar, and so I'm up late because I've been slugging around all day, laying my ass in the bed all day. So I'm sitting up now. That's kind of how that goes. But anyway, it kind of worked out well. Mm-hmm. Many years ago, before the band anybody ever paid money for, I used to do a Black Sabbath tribute, and I got a call last night. Somebody wants to try to reestablish that, but here's kind of what's going down. Hawks Fest coming up first weekend in September, and I got all the guys on board except for one, in which that's not a problem. Anybody that's coming to the Hawks Fest is going to get treated to a Black Sabbath tribute concert.
Wow.
So that's going to be happening. And it's, I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked as hell.
It sounds incredible. It really does.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for sharing. Guys, if you didn't catch that, Black Sabbath tribute at Hawks.
Now,
at Hawks, first
Hawks
weekend in
Fest?
September. Yeah, we're doing first weekend in September. That's coming. And then, of course, there's going to be the stage and open jam night. And I think we have a band or two that are also coming in. I haven't got that fully booked out yet, but, this is what is going to be the main thing. Rocket. Yeah. Generals gathered in their masses. Anyway.
Wow. Now, Mackie, we've never made it to Hawks Fest.
What a shock. We're a little far away, Hawk.
Yeah, get on your surfboard, babies. Start stroking now. You might get here in 3 years.
If we got good currents going our way, for sure.
Yeah, only if the current's going in our direction. Yeah.
There you go.
It's a pleasure to just have you on the show, Hawk. We haven't ever done this, I don't think.
No, and and I gotta imagine it's probably hard to get up here when all the water is going counterclockwise, right?
That is also true.
So Meki, we'll take a note of that. What we have to do is we have to paddle towards South America.
Yeah, at the equator, they'll go straight down, so be fine, though. That's all good.
Yeah, okay.
Oh no, actually, I think the phrase is "paddle like hell." Fast.
I've only got to beat him.
Pick up them curves.
I'll out-pedal you, don't you worry about that.
It's always like the second person, not the first person that beats the pass through the bush. It's the second person who gets bit by the snake.
That's right, baby.
Yep.
Right.
So you got to watch out for that as well.
So I'll let you get back to your show.
All right.
I'm just a little stoked about this, and hopefully it'll bring more people to Hawks Fest. But I'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Back at
Thank you, sir.
Later, man.
Later. I honored, absolutely honored, floored and honored at the same time. Wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, guys, just again, okay, so if you like Black Sabbath, and, you probably do because you're listening to us. So, there's Hawks Fest. Hawk Fest. It's a Black Sabbath tribute, okay? And I think the details would be available on the Revolution Radio website, I would imagine. So
Yes, and the also, from what I've understood, this is an annual event, and not that it has the tribute band, but also a lot of the hosts travelled for 1,000 miles to get.
yeah, and if anybody wants to send us tickets to Australia, so we are leaving from Sydney, Kingsford Smith Airport.
That's true. That's
Right?
true.
So when you go to an Expedia or Travelpedia, whatever it's called, right? You want to book the tickets. There you go. You want to book the tickets from Kingsford Smith to I don't know.
For two.
Yeah, for two, somewhere in Kentucky. Just get us near Kentucky. That's also good. We can rent a car.
That would be a trains, planes, and automobiles event if we could get there.
I'm not John Candy.
All right. I'll still be alive, but be John Candy. I so get you. Yeah. Wow. That was well, Hawk. Thank you so much. For letting us know, and that was also letting us know personally.
It's real late for him, isn't it?
Oh,
I mean, it's real late.
Yeah, this is like almost 2:15 a.m.
Yeah, need some sleep there, sir.
Yeah.
Need some sleep. No, that was great.
And I also
think
hope
it was the first time.
too.
Yeah. It's the first time we've had Hawk's voice. You're quite right in the show, which is great. Of course, we have Hawk's voice at the beginning of each show, but it's a pre-recorded promo. This was Hawk live, so that was good. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I'd love to go. I'd love to be there. And I've seen the photographs and some video that was shot at one of the previous ones, and it's a pilgrimage to get there, and a lot of fun. A lot of good people. A lot of good people working behind the scenes here at the station.
Oh yeah. Oh, that too. Absolutely. He did say 60 acres, didn't he?
He has a lot of property. Yeah.
That's 60 acres is a lot of property.
Yeah, that's
a country in Europe.
I don't care who you are. That's big right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, hey, I'm serious though. If somebody wants to send us airplane tickets, we're happy to attend. If you want to see us in the flesh, otherwise we might just send life-sized cardboard cutouts to be egged at your leisure. No.
That would roughly cost the same as the ticket. Have you tried to do that?
No, I haven't.
I wanted to do that. I wanted to do that with my kids. I wanted to take photographs and make full-size things for they were going away one weekend. I thought, I can't be much, surely. Oh, what?
Really?
Yeah. They've got a vinyl sticker on the front of a cutout, and Yeah, terribly expensive. So yeah, we'd be better off not doing that, Mickey, actually going. So
Okay, let's do that then.
the total cost of going to Nexus per person is about the same cost as going to Hawksfest. So,
Oh, really?
Hawk, if we could get there, we'd go. All right,
Yes.
honestly,
Oh, for sure.
respect. So, yeah, that's right. You can call in, blah, blah, if you didn't catch it. Yeah, I think we did all of the promo. Mackie, this is show 168.
860 and 100. Yes,
Yep.
sir. 160. That's a lot of shows, my friend.
It's every week we do this.
But it's true.
It is. It's true.
Five shows were a lot of shows, and then 6. Now we get 168.
As Mick Jagger once said when interviewed, he reported that if he was still doing this in a year's time, he'd be surprised.
Yes.
That's what Mick said in his first year. So, yeah, it says
Well,
something.
it does. Maybe we'll start touring soon as well. Who knows? But people still come up to me and say, "Do you still have stuff to talk about? You're running out of material." Well, the truth is no. And in fact, the more we dig, I've come across material that I wasn't aware of in the course of the show.
Yeah.
As we did research for the show. Thin Man, right, for one. Or then we did the whole show cycle on the missing persons in national parks, specifically in the United States or North America, for that matter. We haven't even looked at every single anomalous place on the planet. I mean, if there were a TV show out there, Dave, that we were, that someone wanted to do with us, I'd want to do a TV show where we go to strange place every week or whatever, right? So, whatever it takes. So each episode that we do of the show, we go and investigate a strange place. We'll go there, take the equipment, all the radio meters and Geiger counters and whatnot, and just hang out and see what's what and talk to the locals and things like. I think that'd be an interesting show.
Absolutely. One of my friends went around Australia. He was with the band and he went around Australia and he actually interviewed barflies for their information. And I don't mean a buzzing, fly, but people who. The old people of the town who would be in the country town drinking at the bar at 2 p.m. Well, he talked to those guys about paranormal activity, and he found so much stuff going on that was never reported to the media. Just this is local info only. But that's a segue, by the way. Local stuff, and there is a couple of news items here, and one is that the mass sterilizations of the poor people in Peru is now going to be researched by a formal inquiry, which is good. It's the first time that the government has decided to put a formal inquiry out there. And think about the impact of that in your town. How would that go in your town? And I think that's something else. So it means it started, Mickey. This has started. The program's, we know the program's well underway. It just is. But to hear that, maybe that government didn't know the government above it was doing it or something. They'll find there was no problem. But just to see that in the news, I thought that was quite an exciting step, because if the media reporting that it's not the big, huge multinational corporate media. It's the smaller, and they're willing to do it. They'll no doubt get bought up and silenced. So we'll see what happens. What's your take on that, Mackie?
Look, I think we're nearing full disclosure in many areas. Meaning, that there'll be a lot of information coming out that will be shocking to some, not so much to us, I guess, but. It also means, of course, that we're entering endgame, where it doesn't matter really anymore what information comes out, right?
Oh, this is like the villain of a James Bond film.
Yeah, that's right.
Will divulge his entire plan to the guy who's going to execute.
That's right, and then he'll come with a convoluted way to escape. That's right. No, but look, that's the truth, guys. I mean, at some point you will have. It's like you're on a journey, right? You're on a journey, and let's say you go around the world, for argument's sake, and you've gone to the halfway point. At this now, it's as far back as it is forward. So it's irrelevant which direction you go now. Okay, and with this plan that has been unfolding for what I and Dave think has been thousands of years, certainly it's been accelerating in the last few hundred years and even more so in the last few decades. It's this. We've reached a point of no return a long time ago, and it will take a huge effort on all our parts to put a stop to it. And I don't know how peaceful it can be. Yeah, because I mean, all of us have a lot to lose, and there's a lot of things to be considered. But at the end of the day, ask yourself this, and I just want you to do just one thing. Whatever your actions are in life, can you, the next day, face yourself in the mirror? If you can say yes to that, then fair enough. And maybe you're a psychopath, that's also okay. But as long as you can do that, you can act, you can do things, you can not do things, and the next day you can still live with yourself. If you're in that state, and I think most people are actually good people, right? I think really most people are good people.
In fact, people are good people when they're on their own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is the problem, of course, is that we act in a group.
Yes.
And I think, in fact, I'll relay a little story this afternoon. I went to a 1 year birthday party. So a little toddler boy, and the kids there, like, let's say between the ages of probably 4 and 10 or whatever, and they're hitting a piñata. Piñata is it's like a donkey, right? in colorful paper mache, and it's filled with candy. You hit it with a stick, and when you hit it hard enough, it bursts open, and all the candy rains down on you. That piñata.
It's not made for 1-year-olds.
Oh, it's not sir. It proved too hard to hit, and eventually it came off, and it fell to the ground without breaking open. And these probably 4, 5, 6, between 7 and 10-year-olds fell upon it with a vengeance. They kicked it, and they stomped it, and they tried to stab it. It looked like an LA gang initiation. The piñata, but still it wouldn't burst open. But I haven't seen that much anger since, I don't know. Well, ever, to be honest.
1-year-old, you should have filmed that and put it on YouTube, because that's gold.
They would never have gotten the job after that. What? But yeah, no, seriously, that was. So yeah, look, don't be like that. Just be more amenable, accommodating. Don't follow the mob. Don't give in to mob mentality.
You know that the IQ of the mob is the quantity of people divided by the IQ divided by the number of people.
Yeah, that's about right.
It really is like that. Yeah. So, look, that one's okay, but how about this? Did you hear this week there was the Russia has said they're going to respond to the show of force by NATO. You know, if you don't know, everyone, NATO's been trotting around Europe its band of hopefuls, which is tanks and armoured vehicles and troops, 20,000 in number, trotting them around Europe going, look, you're safe. No, well, Russia has just responded to NATO's, they're going to respond to NATO and increase all their military numbers in Crimea. Because that's what happens, isn't it, Mecky?
Yeah, but look, what does it mean, show of force? Really? Do we really think there's going to be a war with Russia? Really? I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Well,
maybe.
Well, that's okay. You might not think that, but the US is posturing like that's going to happen because another news story very similar to this one is that I'll take it to our government and back to the US government. Ready? The Segway champion of the world, right? Ready? Our government this week is endorsing the changes to the acts so that you can't be insulted or offended by comments that people make.
Okay.
I said, what? They're doing what now? So they're going to change the laws so that you can say what you want and can offend and you can insult people without recourse. Is the goal of this change. At the moment, if someone gets particularly upset about what you've said, they could sue you for it if it was a personal attack. Well, now they're changing it so you can't. And this also includes racially, because they say hate is going to hate. It doesn't matter. You can make them hate you more if you like. It's up to you. They can't see you. So that was one thing. Now, remember, for the last 4 years, I've been talking about the military buildup encircling China.
Yep.
Now, this week we heard about the South China Sea, all the atolls, the little outcrops of coral which have been militarized, just as the British Indian Ocean Territory, or as everyone else knows it to be, what's it called, Mickey? Diego Garcia.
Ah.
A little strip of land with a military runway on it, and B-52s parked on it. Well, that's what China's been doing. They saw the excellent work performed by the US, and they're copying it throughout the South China Sea. So, because every one of those is going to need a weapon to be launched at it, which will reduce the amount of weapons to their mainland, I'm guessing. It's a hazard reduction. And while you think that's all right, let them do that. Why not? Well, the South China Sea is pretty big, and they go, well, it's ours, so go away. And Australia has just taken over the government of Norfolk Island, claiming that Norfolk Island, their government, has run it into the red, and they're not a good government. So by some crazy little law somewhere written a million years, or not a million years, within 100 years ago, Norfolk Island could be taken over by Australia. And guess what? We've done it. So the mayor, actually the elected leader of Norfolk Island with their own elections said, what do you mean we haven't run into the red? We're in the black. Our welfare and hospitals and schools are awesome. We have one of each. It's a small island. And we're doing just fine, thanks very much. That we found this preposterous, is what the leaders said, of the island around Australia. So if we shouldn't be throwing stones, if we're criticizing China, incorporating all these little islands around them to make their territory bigger, that's what we've just done ourselves, to the disappointment of those people from Norfolk Island. So this now bends slightly to include China again. It's another topic. And remember how I told you about encircling, right? China. Well, we have an Australian base in the Northern Territory, and initially the 1,000 or so troops that were landing weren't all American troops, and they were becoming Australian troops because they were mercenaries. They'd been paid by Australia, so they typically weren't on the map as US forces. However, that seems to have all changed recently in the last 18 months to 2 years, because while we're not seeing any media here, it's certainly media in America. One of the top US military officials this week said, we'll use the North Australian base to keep a stockpile of B-1 bombers on hand, ready to launch against China should they become unruly. B-1 bombers, Mackie, what do they carry? Like the B-52s?
They carry all the bad weapons.
All the bad weapons. He also mentioned refueling planes as well, to keep a constant border, a perimeter around China. And I went, that's pretty interesting, because that's what we'd suspected all along, and everyone had denied it. The next thing that happened is a bunch of calls went to the US, and then suddenly the US has denied even saying it, even though it was on air. It was recorded when the guy said it all, and then it's like, oh no, that's been redacted. Can't say that now. Yeah, because Australia, we never told the public, you see, that we were doing this. And then someone looked up the actual agreement and found that, in fact, the rotation of any plane taking off, landing, or any troops in Australia does not need the approval of the Australian government. They can fly in and out of that base whatever they want, and we can't do anything about it. We can watch it happen. If you're close enough, that'd be awesome. Let us know. Secretly, of course. Actually, just call up and you can say it on air. We won't say it. Yeah, because I'm not saying it. But anyway, so apparently it's been happening all the time, Meki. The B-52s and refueling units have landed. We know fighter jets have landed, but bombing planes is a whole different thing in someone's psyche.
Oh, yeah, look, it is. But there was a recant, as you said, of saying that the minister got it wrong, and no, they're not coming. Well, sure.
He misspoke. Yeah.
He misspoke. What he meant to say was they're going to bring nuclear weapons. No, that's wrong. Not nuclear weapons.
They're nuclear tampons. That's what they are.
Yes, no. So, look, I'm not... No, the thing is, we don't even know what they have at Woomera.
No.
Right? I don't. Do you know? I don't.
And did you know, Meki, there was also a military base meant to be up the Sunshine Coast to the northern tip. Somewhere up there was a bunch of land that was sold to the US back in, I think, the 70s or the 80s. And it was meant to be for launching because it's closer to the equator.
Yes. Yeah, well, yes. No, that is true. In fact, there was also the station that was tracking the Apollo missions. Because we've got an extremely advantageous, atmospheric window in Australia. So good for launches, good for observations of space. You're correct. That's exactly right.
And no one ever knew whatever happened to it. It was never, ever spoken about again. And I've been looking for the pasted over trees on the map, and I can't find it. So I do not know if it ever came about.
My only UFO sighting, when I say UFO, I mean unidentified flying object, because I had no idea what it was, right? So when I say UFO, I mean it in the true sense of the word. I was driving up Constitutional in Wentworthville, which is in the west of Sydney.
In Wenny?
In Wenny, mate. Wenny. And I drove it up. It's a fairly high point. You can actually see the city from Constitutional. So it's a fairly high point out west, right? Altitude-wise. Anyway. And I wasn't by myself. I was with a friend of mine. We had just come from the gym. And as I look out and through the windscreen, I'm driving. I think I shared this before. But since you talked about launching sites and whatnot, this might be interesting. And, I got to lie to you. I think I was facing due north. I think, but I got to double check the actual orientation of where I saw it. And what I saw was a needle. A needle, not a pinpoint, but a needle of light. So like a little stick of light that flashed, literally zipped across my windscreen. Not my windscreen, but of course, in the distance from the horizon up into the sky. If I had blinked, I would have missed it. Mm-hmm. And I turned to my friend and I said, and he saw it as well. Lucky he didn't blink. And I saw that. And he goes, what was it? I have no idea. And this is many, many, many years ago. We're talking about early 90s here. So all I'm saying is, like, there may very well be launches or forays into space from Australia that we just never hear about. I mean, the thing is this: if you're in the desert, there'll be thousands of kilometers before you meet another person. If somewhere out there someone has built something camouflaged from above somehow, maybe just a hole in the ground that you can open up and close again. And plus, not every piece of Australia is mapped from a satellite either. You could very well have several launch sites in Australia that you and I would never hear about, Dave.
Yeah, so true. Absolutely. But look, that's my news. Did you have anything else? Oh, except for they've found a new virus, a mosquito-borne virus in Western Australia.
Okay. Yeah,
it's a brand new one, and it's up in the Pilbara, which is that pointy, outy bit on the left-hand side of Australia's. But extraordinary. Okay, so is this the new vector? Or is this a new one?
Maybe.
Suddenly it's going to be over here because all the mining. There's mining all over the place, and fly in, fly out. People just travel around.
They're looking from other countries as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, that's true.
These, is the 457 or something visas?
That's right. 457. Yeah.
Yeah, we got people coming in on not just I've got an ethical issue with that anyway, but then also opens up to all kinds of disease vectors as Dave just mentioned. I got a couple of items, guys. In fact, Dave shared it with me, which I thought was hilarious. One of them that Dave sent through. Then I've got another one as well, which maybe not news but an announcement. Is around a guy that wanted to be arrested for killing his imaginary best friend.
Oh yes! That was awesome.
That was just a little comic relief for you guys, right? So I mean, this actually happened.
Only in America is the way
Only.
we would coin that. We would.
Yeah, this guy was drunk when he came in. He was crying. He was distraught. He goes, I killed my imaginary friend. What? And yeah, I cut him up and buried him in the backyard. Needless to say, the cops went to his house.
They swooped.
They swooped. Well, they did find a machine gun, an automatic machine gun, which apparently is illegal, and they arrested him for some minor offenses, I guess. But they did not find the hacked up body of his imaginary friend. Suffice it to say that this person probably needs some medication going forward. But imagine going to the police and turning yourself in for killing your imaginary friend. That's okay. That's what we need.
Look, you would hope that they found a shallow grave.
Wouldn't that be awesome? No, they didn't say. Didn't say, but that would be cool. Having said that, okay, and now I'm going to give a tinfoil hat firmly attached to your head, please. What if, and we spoke about phasing last week, what if these imaginary friends are simply creatures, human beings, whatever, that are slightly out of phase, but if your brain is just tuned the right way, and maybe most children's are, and he certainly was a very childlike adult, right? He was a very childlike adult. Okay, I'm not saying he was handicapped or anything, but he was certainly very childlike. What if these brains, these young brains, are not fully formed yet? The pathways are still forming. Their visual perception is still developing, so they see things differently to us. Believe me, and they have trouble judging distances and all these wonderful things. What if they see into a phased reality that we can no longer perceive because our vision is frozen, let's call it. Some of us might have it out of the corner of our eye. I know that I see things out of the corner of my eye all the time. Okay, I'm sure Dave is the same. Look at cats. They stare off into space. Dogs will bark at nothing, right? And what if... So these creatures are real. What if he actually did kill his imaginary friend and chopped him up? We just can't see it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. That is so true.
Tinfoil hat.
That's fine. Maybe the benevolent phase shifter befriended him. He's been his friend for a long time. They got out of sorts one day. He got drunk. There's no surprise. And, he hacked this thing to death.
Yep.
He was distraught. He was so visibly distraught that the police didn't know what to do first.
Yep. Completely.
That's it. That was an extraordinary story. I just find it. I know the police would have sent excavation gear around to his house to dig up the whole backyard because who knows when it happened.
Well, exactly. But think about it this way as well, guys. Every human being is different. Every human brain is different. Okay, there's no such thing as a standard psychological or a psychiatric disease. There isn't. There are large bandings, or broad bandings of diseases such as schizophrenia, which will express differently in almost every human being. All right, so schizophrenia is one. There's others, dissociate personality disorder, and so on and so forth. The point here is this: that we know that brain chemistry is different in different people, and brain chemistry will give you different perceptive signals. Your reality is different. Like if you're a schizophrenic, your reality is different from everybody else's reality. Okay, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just your brain chemistry. But who's to say that yours isn't the right one? So if the world was full of schizophrenics that were similar in their
there's a book about that, Mackie.
Is there?
Yeah, there is. Where only one person wasn't, and all the rest were. It's a great book. I'll post the title later.
Please do. And the point is, of course, that, who determines what reality is anyway? The majority. That's who. The majority does. And everybody else does not conform with the majority view, ends up in a nut house. That's the fact. If you have an extraordinary experience, and you believe you actually had it, okay, you will be branded abnormal, okay, in some ways. You will scare the normal people because it's outside their perceptive range. They cannot comprehend what you've seen, therefore they will be scared of it. Okay, so this is really, really key, and this is what this show is about as well. We're trying to broaden our mind here. Marcel Proust said this. He said, and I've shared this with you guys before. The journey. For a journey, the journey does not begin with a single step, but in order for a journey to start, you need to get yourself a fresh set of eyes if you truly want to go on a journey of discovery. I'm paraphrasing here a little. It's very true. You have to start, if you truly want to explore and discover, you must look at the world in a whole different way. Okay, you must look at the world maybe through a child's eyes or through your neighbor's eyes. I mean, imagine how would an immigrant feel coming to Australia from a country that doesn't know the car, or has only very few cars, or whatever it might be, right? And no indoor plumbing. Do you think indoor plumbing, everybody has that? No, sir, not at all. Indoor plumbing is a whole new thing, and only very few of us can take advantage of it. Or a regular meal every day.
That's right. There's a movie made, I think, in the either late 70s or early 80s called "They're a Weird Mob," and it was an Italian coming to Australia for the first time. I believe it may not have been Italian. It was a Mediterranean person, possibly Greek or Italian. I don't remember. But the story is that they get off at the airport, and while they learnt a little bit of English, the difficulty in determining the local language and all of the words that have double meanings. So he wanted to be taken to. I can't tell you much of it, but it was a funny movie. He hops in a cab and asked to go to a particular place, and he's taking somewhere else because of the local language describes it as a simile. So it would only be funny if you saw it. Go and read it. Watch the movie called "They're a Weird Mob," as in they are. Yep.
I haven't seen it. That sounds awesome.
It is. It is really. It's a lot of fun, and it's that same concept, Mickey. It's that you think you know it until you get there.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Now the thing is this: I've got about 200 books that are waiting for me to read them, and maybe 1,000 movies I have to watch.
Go to the back of the queue.
Yeah, some things jump the queue at times. It happens. In fact, Escape from Tomorrow I recommend to anyone. It's a black and white movie recently made, Escape from Tomorrow, which is so bizarre that you have to watch it and make up your own mind about it. Escape from Tomorrow. I have an announcement as well.
Oh.
I want to put it out there to you guys.
What is it?
In fact, I will put Dave on the spot here with me.
Here we go.
Because, look, I've been complaining a lot about, not just me, I guess people in general, the government is not doing this, and the government isn't doing that, and I do vote, because, in Australia you have to, but even if I didn't have to, I still would vote.
Yeah, me too.
I still think that it's rigged and doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
However, and then recently a colleague of mine, a lady that works on our floor, as it happens, she ran for office. She didn't win, but she ran for office, and I think that was very commendable. So I'm thinking, well, you know what? I can talk until my lips are bleeding and my teeth are falling out, but unless I put my money where my mouth is, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm now invested in finding out what it takes to run for office. So I will run for office. I will start a party, all right, because I don't want to join any of the existing parties, and worst comes to worst, I'll run as an independent. But if the land tax party can get in, Dave, so can we. And I'll tell you what the platform is, guys. The platform is Let's Fix Australia. Very simply put. Let's Fix Australia. Now, for American listeners, that probably doesn't really mean much to you, but there are a lot of things in Australia that are wrong. We are a very rich country in mineral wealth, especially, right? Naturally rich. And most of that profit flows outside of Australia. It's gone whoosh, or goes to the pocket of a couple of billionaires. So that's wrong, in my opinion. Secondly, we are a welfare state. Now, I got no problem with welfare, right? Entitlements are okay for people that need them. I have no problem with old age pension. I have no problem with handicapped or social security for the indigent or the people that can't help themselves. That's cool. I'm actually for that. Right? That's my social democratic upbringing in Germany. What I am against, completely against, is the abuse of welfare payments by people that could actually work. Okay, so that'll be done away with as well. So there's a number of things like that I want to do, and I want to do a clear I want to have a vision for the future for Australia, like the Snowy Mountain scheme. You know, I want to have something like that. I want to dig a 4,000-kilometer channel from northern Australia into the middle of the desert because it rains like the dickens up in the top end. It's tropical.
Yeah, that's right. They have a wet season. It rains for 6 months.
Yes, sir. So we're going to dig a channel. Okay, it doesn't have to be gigantic, but we're going to dig a channel, and we're going to distribute that water rather than have it run off into the ocean. We're going to have it run off into the middle of Australia. Okay, these are some of the things I want to think we should do. Okay, and if you want to support us, because Dave is not my party member number one, or number two, if you count me, then please do so. I mean, if you I'm going to start a Facebook page and see what we need to do to run for office. Because I tell you what, we can't do any worse. Okay.
Do you know what? One of my friends ran for office in the Lakes area, the Great Lakes area here, and I worked with that lady for 10 years, and away she's gone. And another one ran for office is mayor of Bankstown, I think, and she got in. So look, it is entirely possible, and you know, if you speak the speak and you know what you're doing, it doesn't have to be the speak that you hear that they say. But if you can excite enough people, then you can become a danger to those who don't want you in.
Well, that too. But you know what? I'm willing to take that risk.
Do you know what? I my first thing would be to if I was in a position to make it real, is either just abolish money and donations towards government. That should not be connected at all. Yep. And so neither should religion. There should be nothing that the government says or does about religion. They should be separate. Yep. The other one is if I didn't have any luck separating money from government, I would make them wear sponsorship jerseys with logos proportional to the size of the donation. And all the logos would have to be visible at all times, like, you know, a NASCAR driver or, you know, a sporting person. Like, you know, I'm not going to say we're going to wear, you know, that lycra like the cyclists do. No, not so much. But that would be a bad look. But anyway, it's certainly if we can remove the money from it, because imagine if in America, for instance, just in America, imagine if the government officials were just given a particular allowance of, say, I don't know, 10 million to do this from the voting people. So whoever wanted to run gets $10 million, and then they have to, you know, do a campaign. Nice promo, Mickey. Do a campaign on that as limited funds. Any other spending would immediately make them illegible. Mm-hmm. And that would certainly thin the crowd out. I think it would make them do honest advertising campaigns, and they had, imagine if they were the one who was the only one who could speak in the campaign for themselves. They had to speak for themselves, not employ someone to do the speaking.
Well, that's the key, though. I mean, who are you voting for? I mean, how do you, all these speech writers, but even, you know, proxies when they come in to speak for other people? That's no good. That's no good at all.
It's not any good. What happened to policies? So I've you know I noticed that there was in Mexico there was 2 people died from I'm going somewhere. So 2 people died from not being inoculated, and there was another 50 or so that went to hospital, and it was found to be contaminated. So there was a bacteria in it, and everyone was getting sick from it. And you know, I've got some good friends that do that for a living. They give, you know, vaccines. They deploy vaccines, and they just said, "Look, Dave, you're posting this stuff, and I don't like it. It's, you know, very few people are hurt by them globally. You know, blah blah blah." And I mean that in a nice way. The conversation went on, and I said, "Look, if people don't see when it does hurt them, they can't make an informed decision." And this whole thing about it being mandatory now in Australia. It's mandatory. You won't get welfare. You won't get any government help for anything unless you are up to date with your vaccines.
Yes. No, that is another thing, right? I mean, I don't know about that.
Happen. What I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I understand that the measles vaccine is better to have it than have the effects of the disease, and a lot of people who are saying no, because I've had all mine. I'm alive, but do I trust the future ones? Maybe I've got a little bit of doubt, knowing that it does happen. It does happen out there. Maybe it wasn't refrigerated. It should have been. Always refrigerate. What? Uh-oh. Pass. It's happening.
Well, that's true, Dave. There is an element. I mean, obviously, I have a young daughter and a second one on the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrestling with this. I spoke to our pediatrician. I spoke to the vaccine people. And in the end, because I've seen the effects of polio, I've seen the effects of. I've had most childhood diseases, right? I'd rather not have my kid have those, and I almost died from the chickenpox. Right? But yeah, I mean, it happened, right? And now she's had hers, and she's touch wood, in good health, and the thing is this. I believe everybody should have the right to make a choice. Because this is actually because you're trusting, it's blind trust. It's you see this syringe. Initially, it's an ampule or a little vial, and then it goes into the syringe and goes into your child or yourself. And at this point, you're displaying complete trust. Okay, more trust than maybe you've given anyone else in your life, because you have zero idea what's coming into your bloodstream. Gulf War I, they gave them 21 separate vaccines. I think was the number. 21 separate vaccines before they went into the theater of war in the Gulf. The American soldiers. Yeah, only American soldiers, by the way.
But they didn't give the one against PTSD.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe
Yeah, I know.
They think that might have been these vaccines might have caused a lot of the disorders that came out of Gulf War One, right? And it's not disclosed what's in them. I mean, at least we know, we are told what's in the vaccine. There's a lot of literature, so educate yourself. I mean, I'm neither for nor against, but given an option, because I've seen effects of non-vaccinations as well. I've also seen effects of vaccination. It's like cancer treatment. Do you go in for chemo? Do you not go in for chemo? Would I tell someone what to do with their life? No way. Not up to me. But I mean, if you look at the statistics, it's a coin toss. You could survive cancer without chemo, and chemo could kill you.
Remember the things, all the things that we use in medicine today. That is, they are designed. They are killers, but it's the dose that changes. The dose is just less than killing you, so that it makes you better by killing everything else.
Yeah.
And when we did that research on cancer, we found that that your every cell is just ready to go nuts on you, and it's the other chemicals that keep it in control. If one of the big Western society issues right now is the 1 in 48 autism.
Yeah. In
the Western diet or Western exposure, I have to say, Western exposure.
Yeah. So now look, and we had to come to the autism, and we might as well take this topic to the break now, because we haven't got that much longer. Now, autism, it does seem to be on the rise if you look at the statistics, right? But what are the factors? Are these mercury-based vaccine a factor? Quite possibly. However, could there be other factors? I mean, there are other diseases okay, let's look at this. There's cancer. We've never had as many cancers ever. Maybe that's because people live longer. Asthma, okay, and respiratory illnesses in young children. Allergies.
Allergies is on the rise. Asthma is on the decline now because people realize that the air conditioning and locking the house up and closing it up was bad.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Cleaning ourselves into a dirty environment by hyping the viruses. Making them super viruses by trying to kill all of them was wrong.
Yeah, look, you're right. In fact, Dave is 100% correct. They said some hospitals here in Australia, the question was asked of an expert. I watched it on a documentary years ago now. What do we have to do to get rid of these superbugs? The flesh-eating bugs. Well, you have to tear down the hospital. Okay, you have to tear it down and burn the ground, build the hospital. Not only that, though, I mean, these. When I was growing up, and I was born in '69, so I grew up throughout the '70s, right? and I was playing in dirt. You know, I brought ants back into my grandmother's home and dirt and whatnot and rocks. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I cannot recall seeing any child, and this was later in primary and then high school as well, with the respirator or puffer or anything like that.
We had one kid at my school, and their house was always closed, closed with their central heating and their air conditioning running 24/7.
Yeah,
and their mother was a neat freak and kept their house clean with all of the latest, had rubber gloves on, always spraying stuff.
And don't do that. Don't do the Dettol. Don't do that. That's just nuts. I mean, if you smell it and it disturbs you, that should tell you something, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And so now, what is it in the Western? I want everyone to think about this, and you can email us during the week. Think about what you think it is that's our Western exposure, because nothing is as high as our rates of, as you said, asthma and allergies, and say there's anyone who's born on the spectrum. I believe it would be food additives, but that's just me. You've thrown a hat in the ring there and said there's obviously a percentage which could be attributed to our inoculations. I don't know. I wish I knew. I think it's the foods that aren't foods that are sold as foods.
Yes,
that's my go. I'll say that straight away. And I think there should be nothing that can be sold as a food that isn't food.
Look, Dave, and what you just said is 100% correct. We know for a fact that some of these additives, especially the coloring, the preservatives, have a profound effect, especially on the bodies and metabolisms of younger humans, like children and young adults. There was again, I go back to the documentary by, I forget his name now, Morgan Spurlock, Super Size Me. He goes to a school somewhere in the Midwest in America, and that school was a catch-all for all the truants and delinquents of all the other schools. So that was a school for bad kids, right? They all had issues. So what that school did, I don't know if there was a plan or not, they only served organic food. That was cooked there, nothing pre-prepared, nothing nuked, nothing processed, and no soda cans, only water and some fruit juices. Guess what?
What's that?
That school, which was a catch-all of all the other bad kids, right, and from all the other schools, had the lowest incidences of bad behavior and truancy and those things. So the food had a huge impact on these children's behavior, massive.
Wow.
That should really make us think. I mean, rewatch Super Size Me. It's not all about McDonald's. Rewatch it and look at the effect of food on the very young. It is eye-opening. I mean, I try to eat the right foods, and for my family as well, we try to cook fresh. Not that easy, and in fact, you have to pay a premium these days. Our grandparents only had organic food because there was nothing else. Right? we have to pay a premium. So anyway, but yes. So and again, in the chat room on the psychiatric. Diseases, yes, I do believe they catalog them well, but I also agree with Chindolo that there's a vested interest to have more and more diseases or more and more conditions pronounced the psychiatric disease, such as wanting to eat fresh organic food. that's now a disorder. Yeah, or if you grieve too much.
How can it be a disorder to want to eat natural food? Oh, that can only be put out there by the people who are making fake foods.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
So, and we had some support from the chat room as well. Chosen One, thank you very much for your vote. And yes, I think we should performance-pack politicians, absolutely. And not only that, they should no longer be allowed to vote on their own salaries. So if I were in power, all that would go away. We would have the electorate determine how much they should get paid. How's that? Ooh, making enemies now.
Boy, what are you doing to us, Mickey? My brakes will fail any minute. You watch.
We will, or I'll have a chat with Dave off the guy because I sprang that on him. I'll have a
yes, I know. I'm about to say congratulations, by the way.
We're going to see what we can do, but I'm firmly committed to exploring what it is I need to do this. And like I said, if the no land tax people can get in, I reckon we have a good chance to do something. So, and you know what?
I'd be happy to be party A, because it was A to Z this year.
Yes.
Party choices were A to Z. So, like on the Excel spreadsheet, the next one's AA.
That's right. That'll be us. We're the A's. That's right.
Hey. I like that. That could be our advertising campaign.
It could be. Now, guys, we're coming to the end of the first hour, and don't go away. We will continue with the flood myths after this. Mm-hmm. And I think we should be able to finish it off today. And next week, we're going to give you a bit of an analysis. But if you're in the chat room, or even if you're not in the chat room, if you're listening on YouTube or, whatever, try to donate to the station. It's completely listener-funded radio, meaning nobody gets paid for any of this. I mean, nobody. and I think Hawk is just making enough money to keep his servers humming along. Going forward, though, I think this I mean, it's only like 4 or 5 years old, the station now. I think we came in the second year, so it must be 5 years, right?
Yeah, that's right. And he's got a 300 meg fiber connection.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And
right.
he serves out so much bandwidth from his place, and I really, wow. I absolutely understand and respect every single megabyte of it. Well done.
Yeah, and look, and that is truly awesome. I didn't realize the connection, the pipe was this big. Now, but having said all of that, right, this takes money, and because we don't have any corporate sponsors, and nor do we want them, we rely on donations. Not so much Dave and I, because we do this pro bono, free of charge or anything, right? But certainly the servers don't run themselves. Electricity still costs money. If Nikola Tesla had his way, that would not be the case, but That's true. So therefore we have to pay for it. And any help that you guys can give the station, not just Dave and I, but obviously all the other hosts as well. And I urge you to listen to their shows also. Interesting topic, completely different from what we do. Most of them, and some of them quite similar. So I think we've got a whole spectrum of different interests covered here at the station. And then, of course, Hawk is also an engaged musician, and then you can have a look at that as well and go to the Hawk Fest. But yeah, so there's the music. So if you can give money, right, Dave, please do.
Oh, absolutely. And also, you should try and catch the Hawk Zone. The Hawk Zone is not Studio A or B. It's his own studio, and I think in about 12 hours' time he starts to show up. I'm just not quite sure. But anyway, thank you so much. Hold tight. We'll be back after a very short station promos. And, we'll be talking about flood myths.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, your carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958. And Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back to Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out. Show number 168, 860 and 100, 168. Only 32 to go to 200. We spent the first hour shooting the breeze and hopefully giving you some information you didn't have, maybe some insights, some good commentary from the chat room as always. Thank you guys. We are reading what you're writing. So if you want to do that as well, guys, please come into the chat. And did we mention that Solaris had a great show before us?
Oh, yeah.
Well, she did. Okay, in case we didn't, I'm sorry. But she had an excellent show and a great guest as well. I only listened to a little bit of it because I went, as I said, to a first birthday party. Now, having said all that...
Hey, I just want to say thanks and hello to Common Sense. Thank you for arriving in the chat room.
Yes.
We are live, and it is really... Yeah, see?
I'm so lame. Anyway. But it is great. So yeah, we are live, and we're in the chat room, and we're chatting to the guys there. So if there are any questions from the chat room or anything you want to mention, guys, please do so, and we will... If it's appropriate, we will certainly mention it on the air. Because and I think we can get through it today. We are on page 45 of 99, but we are only going to give you the sections that we thought, the highlights, the things that stood out, as it were. And then next week we will put together a little bit of an analysis and synopsis of these hundreds, in fact, of flood myths. And you'll be quite astonished, I think, by that synopsis. Now, the next one we're going to is from the Palau Islands, which is in Micronesia. And before humans, one of the Kaliths, which are the deities, named Athndoki, visited an unfriendly village and was killed by its inhabitants. Now, bear in mind, this was before humans. Okay, 7 friendly gods who went searching for him were met with unkindness except from the woman Milathk, who told them of the death. They resolved vengeance by flooding the village and suggested Milathk save herself by preparing a raft tied to a tree. Milathk perished in the flood, but was recalled to life by the oldest Obakat god, right, the oldest of the gods. He wanted to make her mortal, but was stopped by another god, Tarit. Milathk became the mother of mankind. Okay, again, in a nutshell, we've got all the imagery there that we had before humans, so the current incarnation of humans, and it was Milathk, then her eggs or whatever, her womb, that became the source of the present day humankind.
Awesome. I know that look, it still astounds me every single time we read a place around the world with a story about the Great Flood. And if you've just caught up with us, we're not talking about the biblical flood in the terms written in the Bible. We're talking about every single culture around the planet has a story about a time when it flooded and they lost all but just maybe a handful or one of their inhabitants. And this is these stories. So we want you to make your own judgment about how you piece all this information together. And next week's show, we'll be talking about it in greater detail. So where we're up to now, we're up to Fiji.
Correct, sir.
Now, I've been there about 6 times. I love it. It's a nice place. I've seen it change over the years since I was a very small child. And I hung out with the prince, believe it or not, of Fiji at the time, who was also a very small boy.
Ooh, you're such a name dropper.
Oh, yeah, like we're like besties. He climbed up a tree and got a coconut for me, and he showed me, he's only small, like he's like 5, but he could climb a tree like I've never seen anyone do it, and I love the experience because I still can't climb a tree like that, and staring at an unhusked coconut, and then knowing all you have to do is poke one of those little eye things out, and you can drink the liquid from inside rather than having to bash the whole thing to a pulp. Extraordinary. So that stayed with me for my whole life. However, he might have known the story, Mickey. The great god, I'm going to say Denge, but it's probably not, had a favorite bird called Turakawa, which would wake him every morning. His 2 grandsons killed the bird and buried it to hide the crime. Denge sent his messenger Utu to find the bird. The first search proved fruitless, but a second search exposed the grandsons' guilt. Rather than apologizing, they fled to the mountains and took refuge with some carpenters who built a strong stockade to keep dengue at bay. Obviously not dengue fever. In their fortress, the rebels withstood Dengue's armies for 3 months. But then dengue caused the earth to be flooded with rain. The rebels sat securely as the surrounding lands were submerged until the waters reached their walls. They prayed to another god for direction, and they were brought canoes. They were given flotation devices by their god, Mickey.
Yeah.
Or taught how to make them by Rakoru. The god of carpenters and his 4 men, Rokola, by other accounts, they were instructed. This is the one half of the story. In very dovetailing stories, the other end in a different way. By other accounts, they were instructed to make floats out of the shaddock fruit, or they floated in bowls. They floated around, picking up other survivors. The receding tide left a total of 8 survivors on the island of Benga. The 2 tribes were destroyed completely, one consisting entirely of women and the other with tails like dogs. The natives of Benga claimed to rank highest of all of the Fijians.
Now, this is very interesting, Dave, and for a number of reasons. Again, we have help. And again, bird here. I think bird does not necessarily mean bird.
Mm-hmm.
It may be a flying device, pilot. Who knows, right? Point is that people will have a hard time remembering technological items in a non-technological society that would have survived the flood. Now, and then you've also got some kind of a quarrel, some kind of war going on as well, and then finally. This is a very interesting element and something that we haven't really discussed with you guys yet. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I don't want to put it into synopsis. But we actually went through a bottleneck, Dave, as you remember, a species bottleneck. For the mitochondrial DNA, it was about 100,000 years, and there's an equivalent for the male DNA, which was closer to, I think, 20 or 30,000 years. I'll look it up again and give you the correct numbers, guys. But essentially, if that is true, I mean, think about it this. I mean, in some depictions, you got blue-skinned people and really red-skinned people, right? And you got people that look like monkeys, other people that might have had tails. And my point here is that the human race, as we've already found out by the discovery, for example, of Homo fiorensis and Denovan man, was much more varied than we had previously thought. We had much more than cousins, but rather maybe stepbrothers and sisters in the human tree that would have made our racial, variety much greater than it is today, including potentially really, really small people and really, really big people.
So
again,
you're right. You're right, Mickey. Where all the humans on Earth right now are the same species of human.
Yes.
That's the most important point. And what Mickey's said here is, and I agree, that there were more species of human that were paralleling at the same time before the flood.
Yep.
And this is what comes out in all these stories. There were others, and they were destroyed. And we've found evidence in China, and we found evidence in the Philippines or Indonesia or something of a cave where there where there was cohabitation at different times of the year in the same cave by different species of human.
Yep.
Not race, species.
Yes. So like Neanderthal man, for example, and then Homo sapiens sapiens, which is what we are. So guys, this is something we're going to have in the analysis though for you with all the correct dates as well and correct scientific names for all these things. Because once you've named it, you've explained it. Tahiti is our next stop. I meant that flippantly, just because you named something you haven't explained. Okay, so
Mickey. I just want to say the Samoa one. It's so small.
Okay, go ahead, please.
In a battle between fire and water, remember fire and water?
Yes,
That's
sir.
very important. Offspring of the primeval octopus. Everything was overwhelmed by a boundless sea, which means it had no end, everything flooded. And the god, Tangaloa, had the task of recreating the world. There's the recreation story as well. The only survivor of a deluge was a man or a lizard named Pili, who by marriage with a stormy petrel begat offspring to repopulate the land. Once again, It isn't humans, it wasn't the people from the pre-flood people that populated the world after the flood.
No, you're right, and I just highlighted as well to include in our synopsis because again we have the lizards named here yet again. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir. No, that does bring us to Tahiti though, and now Tahiti was destroyed by the sea. Even the trees and stones were carried away by the wind, but 2 people were saved. The wife took up her young chicken, her young dog, and her kitten, and the husband took up his young pig. I would imagine, to a mount. So the husband said they should escape to Mount Orofena, but the wife said correctly, here edited, that the flood would reach even there, and they should go to Mount Pitahiti instead, which they did. They watched 10 nights till the sea ebbed, meaning it went out again. The land, though, remained without produce, and the fish in the rock crevices were putrid. When the wind died away, stones and trees began to fall from the heavens, where the winds had carried them. To escape this new danger, the couple dug a hole, lined it with grass, and covered it over with stones and earth. They crept inside and listened to the terrible crash of the falling stones. By and by, the falling stones stopped, but to be safe, they waited another night before coming out. The land they found was desolated. The woman brought forth 2 children, a son and a daughter, but grieved about the lack of food. Again, the mother brought forth, but still there was no food. Then in 3 days, all the trees bore fruit, and all the people descended from that couple. Now, I want to... Okay, so these guys survived on the top of a mountain, but they weren't out of danger then. Okay, and this is interesting because think about it. Let's say there was a meteorite impact, for argument's sake, in the Indian Ocean, like we said there was.
That's right.
And what would happen? It would cause a tsunami, like a tidal wave, right? And that's what happened. And then after 10 days, the water would recede. And that could be reasonable depending on where the impact was and where they are. But then the enormous winds that would have been generated, maybe tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever. It is quite feasible that some of the debris, even would have, even from the impact, would have gone up into the stratosphere or
That's
even
right.
higher. Who knows? It might have floated about there for a while. I mean, we know that sometimes this stuff, even not about rocks, but certainly fish and frogs were transported over wide distances. We have anecdotal evidence of it raining fish and frogs, for example, or even cats and dogs. So again, and then they had to dig a hole and cover it over to be safe from that particular danger. And certainly near the impact area, that fire and water would have been immediate. There would have been immediate rocks that would have hurled down, and not just later. So again, it is the differences and the detail here. For example,
it's a great story. This one.
Yeah, and the land was completely useless for farming. And the fish that had been caught in the crevices now would be rotting, of course, and could not be eaten. So this again, I'm just blown away by the level of detail.
I do like that they got into a hole and covered it with dirt, lined it with grass to be more comfortable. That is the right way of doing it. And well done, you guys. But once again. Now this is the only one that so far that says they descended from that couple.
Yes,
they directly descended from them. So, when I look at the way in which the Earth turns, it would have gone around the entire. It would have gone over Africa, and then over America, and then come down to Tahiti. Is the extent of it. Or that this was part of that dirty space thing that occurred. They say that trees began to fall and stones.
Yeah.
So maybe it did create some absolutely, we talk about superstorms. Maybe this created something even bigger. I can imagine it probably would, Mackie.
Oh, look, absolutely. Again, we don't really have first-hand experience of, and I hope we will never get that either, of an impact of that nature. But certainly we know that trees get uprooted. We've seen that. We've seen. I mean, if you live in tornado country in the States, you know what these things can do. They will uproot it and lift it up into the atmosphere, right? These things, and drop it later somewhere. And if the wind is strong enough, it could be quite a distance away and quite some time later.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're now in Eskimo.
Yeah,
country.
North America, sir. That's
in
right.
Alaska. We've gone from beautiful Tahiti to Alaska. And if anyone is listening from Alaska right now, or close to it, I don't know, SJ's almost there, but not quite there. Hello, SJ. I saw him in the chat room. A great inundation, together with an earthquake, swept the land so rapidly that only a few people escaped in their skin canoes to the tops of the highest mountains. This is the kind of devastation that I would expect to see on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
Think about the other side. If you put a skewer through the globe, the other side of the planet would be there. And like a tsunami wraps around an island and will be double the height on the rear side of the island. If you didn't know, that's what happens. Imagine the seismic activity from an impact on one side of the planet that would ripple around to the other side. If you happen to be exactly in the right spot, you would have two waves, well, a surrounding wave approaching you from all directions. And I can only imagine that would have been awful. So it also describes exactly the same event, and I just love this research, Mickey. Well done on this one.
Yeah, interesting stuff. The next one is from Hareskin, also in Alaska, and I'll share with you by way of a little explanation as well. Kunyan, or wise man, foreseeing the possibility of a flood, built a great raft, joining the logs with ropes made from roots. He told other people, but they laughed at him and said they'd climb trees in the event of a flood. And good luck with that. Then came a great flood with water gushing from all sides, rising higher than the trees and drowning all people but the wise man and his family on his raft. As he floated, he gathered pairs of all animals and birds he met with. The earth disappeared under the waters, and for a long time no one thought to look for it. And then what follows is an explanation of how muddy patches appeared and that they grew bigger and bigger. So essentially the water was receding here. Okay, and eventually the waters flowed out into the rivers and lakes and back into the ocean. So, but it was a lengthy period of time, and they used animals yet again to see, where the land was and so forth. And it's also said here that the wise man and his wife repeopled the land, meaning they were the source of that. So, in my opinion, and this is just me, I think this may be a cross-cultural contamination from the Bible potentially, because it's very close to that particular narrative.
If you notice that the previous Alaskan one had none of that explanation in there, and was just a survival story.
That's correct.
So, yeah. Okay, so what do we have? British Columbia. I know someone that lives there. Hey, SJ. I knew we'd get down to you one of these moments, yeah? All right, so in your place, this is from the Thompson Indians in BC, British Columbia. And this one goes out this is to SJ in particular. A flood once covered all but the summits of some of the highest mountains. Its cause isn't certain, but it may have been made by the three brothers. Oh, good on you. Kuakul?
Close enough.
That'll do. Who travelled the country transforming things until they themselves were transformed into stones. The three men escaped in a canoe and drifted to the Zukeski Mountains, where they and their canoe were afterwards turned into stone. You may see them there today if you look hard enough. You know what stone to look at. Coyote survived by turning himself into a piece of wood and floating. When the flood subsided, leaving him in the Thompson River area, he resumed his normal shape. He took trees to be his wives, and from them the Indians were descended. The flood left lakes in the hollows of the mountains, streams flowing from them, and the fish in them. None of these existed before the flood.
Yeah. Again, we have the creation of the human race anew. After the flood, and once again we have this imagery of trees bearing the fruits like that are then turning into people. I guess again it's this sort of with modern eyes. Yet again, I would think about like I don't know, some kind of maybe artificial womb or sac that's on hanging on some kind of fixture. I don't know. But and coyote actually features, and if you're North American native, then you know this. Coyote, of course, is a very important creature in the Native American myths. I look again, completely different from the biblical story. This one.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely wait, you're right. And look, what I read into this, I look at this from my I don't know. Look, don't get me wrong. I look at this from how could someone turn from one thing to another, unless, of course, that story comes from observing it and then trying to describe it in the things that you see around you.
Yes.
So, yeah, if it was brown, it might have looked like a piece of wood. Maybe it was just some goop in a jar. I don't know. So the three men that escaped might have had their DNA taken. They might have been, the creation of people again from their DNA. Because we anyway, we'll move on.
No, look, but yes, absolutely, and we have to allow ourselves to wonder whether or not there once existed a civilization of sufficient, I guess, intricacy and advancement, more than ours even, to allow for this. And the answer has to be yes. And again, it'll be part of the synopsis. Now, the next one takes us to the Tsetsaut. We're still up in North America. Uh-huh. A man and his wife went up the hills to hunt marmots. There, they saw that the water was still rising. They enclosed their children, along with supplies, in hollow trees. The water rose further, and all other people drowned. The children went to sleep, and when they awoke, one of the boys opened a hole, and they came out, the waters having receded, and then we can assume that they repopulated the world. Again, completely different. Now, this is a couple that by coincidence, not even saving themselves, but rather the children, right? Mm-hmm. By coincidence survived the flood. And again, it's the survival through a tree. The children emerged from a tree. Okay, they went to sleep. Are we talking, is this again,
stasis?
Yes, right? I mean, is it? I don't know. But the point is that the adults did not survive. Mm-hmm. It was the children that did.
Oh, that is crazy. Okay, so Tishmian, BC again, British Columbia again, a different group of people. The flood was sent by the god Laxha, who had become annoyed by the noise of boys at play. All people except for a few were destroyed by a flood, which was sent by heaven to punish man's ill behavior. That's that echoing theme again. Later, people were devastated by fire. The earth had no mountains or trees before the flood. Leka, or Lekwa, created them after the deluge. Wow.
Yeah. We get a whole bunch of, again, we get the motive of first water, then fire. Now, if the impact theory holds true, that also makes sense, because the tsunami would be immediate. Any volcanic activity would be subsequent to the impact, because it would take a little longer to actually occur. So, again, I think the evidence is mounting. The next one is going to take us to Lillooet, which is Green River, yet again in British Columbia. A great rain came, making the rivers and lakes overflow the country. A man named Tsimikin took refuge with his family in his very large canoe. The others fled to the mountains, but the flood rose over to cover them too. The people begged him to save at least their children. He didn't have room enough to hold all of them, so he took one child from each family, alternating males and females. The flood covered all land except the peak of Split Mountain, which is Nitskato, on the west side of Lower Lillooet Lake. When the waters dropped, the canoe grounded on Smimelk Mountain, and each stage of the waters dropping is marked by a terrace on the side of the mountain, which can be seen today. Now, this is interesting. The survival story is specific around whom is going to be saved, which is children from each family. Okay, and again, he had no help. He just built that large canoe himself, maybe already had it, and he took children from each family. I mean, if I was in that position and my child had to be saved, I'd rather have my child saved than me, right? And if you're a parent, you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you a story next week when we're doing our synopsis too on this. So where are we? We're Skokomish in Washington. That's the Skokomish people. And, this might be a little closer to some of our listeners, Meki, than some of the world that we've already mentioned. And I have to say this, the Great Spirit, angry with the wickedness of people and animals, decided to rid the earth of all but the good animals, one good man, and his family. At the Great Spirit's direction, the man shot an arrow into a cloud, then another arrow into that arrow, and so on, making a rope of arrows from the cloud to the ground. The good animals and people climbed up. Bad animals and snakes started to climb up, but the man broke off the rope. Then the Great Spirit caused many days of rain, flooding, up to the snow line of Tacoma, Mount Rainier. After all the bad people and animals were drowned, the Great Spirit stopped the rain. Wow. To this day, there are no snakes in Tacoma. Pardon me.
Now, this is a unique survival story, I think.
But it does talk about going up into the sky.
Yes, sir, exactly. That's exactly right.
And it says that the spirits, the great spirits, were angry with the wickedness of people. Yes. And they took the animals and the people that they wanted to repopulate the earth with and left the rest to die. They killed them all.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And again, the synopsis will be, I think, quite eye-opening for you guys. We're still in Washington with the Nisqually people. Now, and this is I always am blown away when this reference is made. The people became so numerous that they ate all the fish and game and started to eat each other. They were so wicked that Doggy Buttle, the changer, flooded the earth. All living things were destroyed except one woman and one dog, which survived atop Takobut, which is also Mount Rainier, except, of course, these people call it something else. From them, the next race of people were born. They walked on 4 legs and lived like animals.
Wow.
Okay. Now, the changer then sent a spirit man from the east to teach them civilization. Okay, he showed them how to make and use bows, canoes, clothing, fire, and so on and so forth. And he also taught them about spirits and the potlatch custom. Okay, so we have the motive of a teacher here as well.
Mackie, what would cause everyone to start eating each other? Is it the lack of food? So if we had, if our society broke down and there was no food in the shops, that describes that situation, doesn't it?
Well, I think so. Absolutely. Completely.
Wow. Okay, so we have the Twana people.
Yes, sir.
From Puget Sound in Washington. The people were wicked, and to punish them a flood came which covered all the land except one mountain. The people escaped in their canoes to the highest peak in their country, which they call Fastener. With long ropes, they tied their canoes to the tallest trees on the peak, but the water rose over that highest point, and some of the canoes broke their moorings and drifted. That's, you know what, I put myself in that position. When I'm reading the story, I try to put myself there and say, well, we tried, and now they all drifted off land. And I really feel sorry for those people.
Oh, I completely agree. Completely agree. Now, there's one I didn't highlight.
Just a trick.
No. Yeah, that's okay though, because it's. I'll do it, but
don't mention that in the production meeting. Oh, there's one I didn't highlight. I'm going to read it out. I want that one.
Well, you can do that too. Now, this is interesting though, and this is again the Yakima people in Washington. In early times, many people had gone to war with other tribes. Even medicine men had killed people, but there were still some good people. One of the good men heard from the land above. And now you know why I want this in here, right?
Yeah.
That the big water was coming. He told the other good people, and they decided they would make a dugout boat from the largest cedar they could find. Soon after the canoe was finished, the flood came, filling the valleys and covering the mountains. The bad people were drowned. The good people were saved in the boat. We don't know how long the flood stayed. The canoe came down where it was built and can still be seen on the east side of the Toppenish Ridge. The earth will be destroyed by another flood if people do wrong a second time. So not only do we have a flood myth, but we also have a prophetic warning.
Wow.
But let's just think about it this way. One of the good men heard from the land above that the big water was coming from the land above. What is the land above, Dave?
That's benevolent space people telling you.
Maybe. Yes, sir. I think the next one you like as well.
Oh, I want to. This is the Wintu, or the North Central Californians. So not the SoCals, but the Centcals. The Centcals, I like it. People came into existence and dwelt a long, long time. Then one of them dreamed of a whirlwind, and the others said that he had dreamed something bad. After that, it blew, and the wind increased. The world was going bad. At noon, they all went into the earth lodge. It blew terrible. Trees fell down westward. The one who had dreamed stayed outside and told the others it was raining. The water was coming, he said. The earth will be destroyed. All the other houses were blown away. He came into the earth lodge and leaned against the pole. At last, the pole came loose too. The one who dreamed was the last destroyed of all the people. The world was destroyed, and water alone was left. After some time, Alelbiz, he who is above, looked down, obviously the god or a space person, looked down all around and finally saw something barely visible in the north in the middle of the water. It swam around a little. It was lamprey eel, the first to come into existence, and it lay on the bedrock. On the rocks lay a little mud. No one knows how long the water sat there. At last, it receded to the south, turning into numerous creeks. A little earth came into being, and it turned into all kinds of trees.
Mm-hmm.
That is something, Meki.
Again, right? It's we once again have the punishment, but we also have this: people came into existence and dwelt a long, long time, right? But then something happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and there's space people in here looking down.
Well, yeah, yet again.
Warnings.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the one who dreamed was the last destroyed of all the people.
But still destroyed.
All the people were destroyed, including the dreamer. All of them, right? Gone.
Yeah, gone.
And obviously that had to be repopulated yet again, but that's not specifically mentioned here. But obviously it had to be because we're here. So, it's look, these and this is a thematic structure of all of these stories, or the vast majority certainly. It's fascinating stuff. So we are staying in California, which is from the Ohlone people, which were at home from San Francisco up to Monterey. A fight between the great forces of good and evil was followed by an immense flood. Okay, the war motive here. It wiped out all traces of the previous world and covered all the earth except 2 islands. It wiped out all traces of the previous world. Coyote, yet again, the only living thing in the world, stood on one of the islands, Mount Diablo or Pico Blanco. One day he saw a feather floating on the water. It turned into an eagle as it reached the island. Later, they were joined by hummingbird. This trio created a new race of people. This trio created a new race of people. This trio created a new race of people. Okay, 3 times. Eagle told Coyote how to find a wife, but did not tell him how to make children. Coyote, again, eagle is the flying motive here. Okay, so the flyer told the coyote how to find a wife, but not how to make children. Coyote told the girl to louse him and to swallow the wood tick she found. She became pregnant from this. Afraid, she ran away to the ocean and turned into a sand flea. Coyote found another wife and with her went out over the world, founding 5 tribes with 5 different languages. There's a repopulation story here. There's a complete destruction of the previous world. Complete destruction of the previous world.
And striving to swallow a wood tick? That sounds like a tablet of some kind.
Well, yes, sir. It's just, I mean, hey, we just hear. We just tell you.
Yeah, that's right. That's something else. I love these stories. And you know what? There's so many stories. And we have one from pretty much from everywhere on the planet. And I have to say, Meki, Common Sense, this is the avatar in the chat room, and says the Great Flood is told in almost every religion. And I replied, yes, it is, worldwide and extends past religion. Religion is the storytellers, which had kept the story intact or alive.
Yes.
And that's the reason why it's been incorporated into it. Okay, so where are we now? We're on the...
Asachimi, yep.
Asachimi, cool.
Yep.
People in California. A great flood covered the earth and drowned every living creature except the coyote. He's a liver. You want to be next to a coyote holding onto them. He collected tail feathers of owls, hawks, eagles, and buzzards and traveled with them all over the earth. I don't think it's truly a coyote. I think it's a space person.
Yes, maybe.
Wherever a wigwam had stood before the flood, he planted a feather. The feathers sprouted and flourished, turning into men and women. Thus, coyote repopulated the world.
Now this, and again, if I put my modern day hat on, and I'm actually going to research the coyote symbol as well. Now, this coyote person must have cobbled together a flying machine out of various flying devices that would have probably been destroyed during the flood, and then traveled with that all over the earth. probably not just Coyote, but a whole bunch of survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever a Wickerman had stood before the flood, he planted a feather. Now, obviously, what he did, he must have gone to the old great population centers, I imagine. That's what you would do after a flood if you had the technical means to go there. You'd check the big population centers. I mean, if there was a destructive event now, and I had a flying machine and people with me and provisions, but where I wasn't really good to live, I'd go to the places where there was technology and such. Maybe that in the hope that some of them had survived.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, you have to give it a modern spin. But I'm gonna research the coyote symbolism and understand exactly what coyote represents for the North American Indians. Okay, so that brings us to...
Drum roll, please.
Okay,
There's tons and tons of pages going past.
Okay, Pawnee in Nebraska. We're in Nebraska, okay? And this is interesting. This is highlighted for a very obvious reason, which you will find out in a second. The first people on the earth were giants, very big and strong. They did not believe in the creator Tirawa. They thought nothing could overcome them. They grew increasingly worse. At last, Tirawa grew angry and raised the water to the level of the land so the ground became soft. The giants sank into the mud and drowned. Their bones can still be found today. Tirawa then created a man and a woman, like people of today, and gave them corn. The Pawnees are descended from them. I think that's probably all the flood myths in a nutshell, right there, right?
That is.
That was, yeah, right.
Well, we know that the cave people of New Mexico and they had corn. They lived on corn.
Oh, you've read ahead.
Oh no, I know this one, Mickey. That's easy. I didn't read ahead, and so I like this one very, very much indeed. That's you're right. It's a nutshell. Okay, so we've got the Jicarilla Apache, northeastern New Mexico. I do love the New Mexico stories. I'd love to live there if I could. So anyone lives there is willing to help me build a house. Okay, before the Apaches emerged from the underworld, there were other people on the earth. Dios told an old man and old woman that it would rain for 40 days and nights. People were warned to go to the tops of 4 mountains. I'm not going to read the mountains. And others, and another whose identity isn't known. So there was 4 mountains, and it took, and not to look at the flood or sky. The people didn't believe the old couple. When the rains came, only a few people made it to the mountaintops and shut their eyes.
Keep reading, actually, the whole thing.
Those who looked at the flood turned into a fish or frog, as did some who were caught in the flood. If they looked at the sky, they turned into a bird. The people sitting on the mountains were told, when they got hungry, to think of food, and Dios would feed them. That's telepathy, Mackie. After 80 days, Dios told the 24 remaining to open their eyes and come down. These 24 people went into 24 mountains. 8 other people survived the flood who were able to travel by looking where they wanted to go, and they were there. Oh. Wow. Mm. That's pretty good technology because
yes,
you can imagine what that means today. These, like, they look at it on an iPad and suddenly they're there. These people told the Apaches about the flood before going into 2 mountains themselves. Dios told them to stay there until the world is destroyed. Around the year 2000, when the Apaches dwindle in number, the surface of the earth will again be destroyed, this time by fire.
That's a common, again, we've got a prophetic story here as well, not just a flood myth. The destruction by fire is common, and in fact, so the last world was destroyed by water. That's common across most cultures. The next world, in fact, if the world mythology includes that as well, will be destroyed by water. And and that's by fire, and that's the world we live in right now. Mm-hmm. And that's the same for the South American tribes. They had similar traditions around that as well. In fact, the was it the Hopi? I think they believe this is the 4th world, and the 5th world will be destroyed by by fire, and that's just around the corner. So. I think this is fascinating stuff. I really do. And again, the little details. Before the Apaches emerged from the underworld, there were other people on the earth, right? Other people. Okay?
That's right.
And Dios came and helped them. They just had to think about it, and they could just look at somewhere and travel there. That's teleportation, right? Or maybe if you again put your modern head on. If I look up on the internet, I want to go to Singapore. I want to go to New York City or whatever. I can look at that, and then I book my travel, and I can go there.
That's right.
Now, 100 years ago, that's not really that easy. Right? These days, because of our transportation system and then the relative ease with which you can travel if you're from a developed country, would seem like magic, or to someone that lives in a world that only has foot travel. You're going around by foot,
and you can't see it before you get there.
No, that's right. So, but again, it might be describing technology which is far more advanced than that. Maybe it is
teleportation or something like that as well.
Exactly. Now, the next one I think you will very much like as well.
Well, go ahead.
No, it's yours. Yes, it is.
Oh.
Isn't it?
No,
it is mine. Oh, well, in that case, I will like it. This is the. In fact, you will like the one after that. The Papago, which are native to Arizona, have this to tell us. Back when the sun was closer to the earth. Again, back when the sun was closer to the earth, Coyote foresaw the coming of a flood, gnawed down a great tree, entered it, and sealed the opening. Montezuma, who was the first person created by the Great Mystery, took warning from Coyote and prepared a dugout canoe for himself atop Monte Rosa. Only they survived the flood, which covered all the land. They met again on the top of Mount Rosa, which rose above the flood waters. And in the process, the Great Mystery raised the sun to its present height, and with an earthquake destroyed the tower that Montezuma was building into the heavens. In the process, changing languages so that people could no longer understand animals or other tribes. So what you have there is, the Babylonian or the Tower of Babel.
That's right. That's what I was thinking as soon as you said that.
Yep, and again, that might be a cross-cultural contamination. If it is not, if this is not cross-cultural contamination, right? I'm blown away. I really am.
Yeah, completely.
The next one, though, is I think you will enjoy.
And I really am across the Hopi people. And thank you for allowing me to read this one. I know that in their story about the end of the coming end of the world, they say that the sky will turn to a net. It will look like a net. And if you've looked up and you've seen chemtrails, I think you sort of get what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
All right. The crossing over of the strings in a net. Yeah. Anyway, this is the Hopi story of the flood myth. The people repeatedly became distant from Sotunang. I pitched that up at the end because I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. The creator. Twice he destroyed the world by fire and by cold, and recreated it while the few people who still live by the laws of creation took shelter underground with the ants. I knew that story. When people became corrupt and warlike a third time.
Keep going with that. Yeah.
I will. The Creator guided the ones who had retained their wisdom to Spider-Woman, who cut down giant reeds and sheltered the people in hollow stems with a little water and food. The Creator caused a great flood with rain and waves, and the people floated in their reeds for a long time. Finally, they came to rest on a small piece of land, and Spider-Woman unsealed their reeds and pulled them out by the tops of their heads. They still had as much food as they started with. So they might have been asleep, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in stasis pods. They sent out birds to find more land, but no avail. Let me just go. The last of these was a large, fruitful, and people. So the last of these was large and fruitful, and the people wanted to stay there, but Spider-Woman urged them on. They went further northeast, paddling hard as if going uphill, until they came to the fourth world. The shores were rocky and seemed no place to land, but by opening the doors at the top of their head, they found a current that took them to a sandy beach. Wow. The Creator appeared and told them to look back, and they saw the islands, the last remnants of the third world, sink into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'll leave.
Amazing. That's like, again, you've got a lot of elements in there which are clearly a story that is its own. It's its own story, but explaining the same event, and it's I don't know. It's just I know this is the second time we do this, and we've spoken about this for years now, but this is fascinating stuff. So let's quickly go on. We're actually on page number 79 of 99, which means we'll do the vast majority today, and then only a few more next week, plus the synopsis. So this is now in New Mexico, the Zuni people. A great flood once forced the Zunis out of their valley to take refuge on a nearby tableland. But the flood rose nearly to the top of the tableland, and the people, fearing it would drown them all, decided to offer a human sacrifice to appease the angry. A youth and maiden, children of 2 priests of the rain, were dressed in finery and thrown into the flood. The waters began subsiding immediately. The 2 young people had turned into stone. They may be seen as 2 great pinnacles rising from the tableland. Now, that may or may not be true, but maybe it was enough to alleviate their guilt. And having thrown these people into the water may have just been a coincidence, with the water subsiding at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but turn to stone. If you were in stasis, Mickey, you wouldn't be able to move.
Well, that's right. And then we have this imagery of turning to stone in a number of other stories. I just can't make the logical link as to what that actually means. Maybe it is stasis. Maybe it is something like that.
Well, remember they emerged being lifted by their head, which could be like levitated, because that you would just be upright. Anyway, in Central America now, this is the Tarascan, or northern, what's that? Michoacan?
There you go. Boom. Perfect.
Mexico. Maybe I had a last life there. When the great flood came, God built a house. Everyone tried to crowd into it. Those who failed were drowned. The house floated on the waters for 20 days, striking the sky 3 times.
And again, in a nutshell, someone helped. Right?
This is external assistance.
Yet again. Okay, which brings us further down. Here we go.
We're scrolling.
And this is from Tlaxcalan in central Mexico. A very, very brief description, and this is very much to the point, I think. Men who survived the deluge were turned into monkeys, but they slowly recovered speech and reason. We've discussed this. If a great catastrophe was to befall us, we would lose most of our civilized ways.
Absolutely.
It would time to get it back.
Yeah. Get out the stone chisel and put down what you remember. This is the Mixtec, northern. Oh, geez. This is in Mexico. The Earth was once well populated when mankind committed a magical fault for which they were punished by a great deluge. The Mixtec people descended from a few survivors, or from the few survivors.
Correct. Okay. The Tzeltal people in Chiapas, southern Mexico. Through a misunderstanding, a wife killed and cooked her child. She and her husband ate it and enjoyed it, and soon everyone was killing and cooking children. God became angry and sent a deluge. One intelligent man survived in a canoe. Right after the flood, he lit a fire and God smelled the smoke. God sent the buzzard, turkey buzzard, and churn owl to investigate, but they stayed to eat dead bodies. God condemned them always to eat dead bodies. God then sent the hawk, which reported back the man was turned into a monkey. Again, in a nutshell, what would happen. But it also gives us a reason as to why this deluge happened. And maybe back in the olden times, maybe cannibalism became a rage and people needed to explain the flood event. And they said, well, we ate each other. Maybe that was a bad thing. So it's just very strange.
It really is. We won't do another one because we've got like 40 seconds left. No, we've got 40 seconds, Mickey. 40 seconds.
But this one you would really... Anyway, okay, good. You start next week.
We'll do this one next week. But all I have to say is it is so extraordinary to hear the same kind of story from around the planet, which could only have been a real event.
Yes.
And that's what I want everyone to remember, that this was a real event. It's not myth. It's not some legend that was was a lie. It's not something that's been perpetuated through the biblical text just to make us think that we should be really good about, our behavior. It's really something that happened. So we'd like to see you back for show 169 next week. Next week, same time, same awesome radio station, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. We'll see you there. Enjoy your week, guys.